What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we pick up with Spawn number 37 and number 38. Now, both of these books are one-shots, meaning that they tell two different storylines, but they both introduce new characters into the world of Spawn comics. Now, these new characters are not majorly important, but I want to go ahead and have these books out there just in case we do run into the characters down the road in later books. With that being said, both characters being introduced are very interesting in their own kind of way. It could affect Spawn's life down the road in some kind of crazy way. And so I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. And so getting into Spawn number 37, we pick up with a new character known as the Freak. And when it comes to the Freak, personally to me, I know the way he looks may seem a tad bit crazy, but not to the point where I would call him freaky looking. And the reason why he's called the Freak more is because the way he talks. Now, in this particular book, you have characters call him the Freak, not because the way he talks, but the way he looks. But honestly, to me, he does not look that freaky. Either way, when it comes to the Freak, he does walk into Spawn's territory. And remember, this area belonged to Spawn because Spawn said everybody in this area is under his protection. Either way, Spawn is asleep at the moment, so he has no idea the Freak is in his area at all. But you do have the Freak tick off a set of gangsters because, well, the way he talks made it seem like he was kind of talking down to them. At the same time saying like, hey, I'm a true freak and you guys are technically nothing scary at all. And so, of course, it does tick off the guys and they want to kill off the Freak. Once you have the guys wanting to go after the Freak, well, they do wake up Spawn. And with him waking up, yeah, you already know, Homeboy is not happy at the moment that he was woken up from his slumber. And so you have Spawn say, oh, you think it is okay to wake me up, but on top of that, to be in my territory, but even on top of that, you're going after somebody who looks like an innocent man just minding his business, and you guys are trying to gang up on him. That right there is not okay at all. And so you have Spawn do what Spawn does best. He technically goes after the gangsters. Now, of course, he does scare them away, and now it's just Spawn the Freak left alone to have a conversation. And this is where you have Spawn learned a tad bit more about the Freak and his actual origin story. And so when it comes to the Freak, he does tell Spawn that he used to be a regular person. And matter of fact, he used to work for the American government as an undercover agent. The thing was, he was assigned to go after a particular person known as Dr. Delirium. And of course, when it came to Dr. Delirium, he was trying to do evil things to people's minds. And so it was up to the Freak to bring him in. Except Delirium found out the Freak was on his case. And so you had Delirium kill off the wife and son of the Freak as a way to keep the Freak away from him so that he'll be able to continue on with his experiments. Now, with that being said, the Freak got ticked off about the idea that his wife and child were killed off by Delirium. And so you have the Freak go on a revenge path to get back at Delirium. The problem was, once he did find Delirium, Delirium did set up a trap to basically capture the Freak. And once he did that, Delirium was able to run experiments on the mind of the Freak. And that explains why when the Freak talks or the way he acts is a tad bit on the crazy side. But you do have the Freak say, I still have some of my sanity, but I do know one thing. I still want to get revenge against Dr. Delirium for what he did to my wife and kids. And so he is asking for Spawn's help. And matter of fact, you have Spawn say, yes, I will help you with this situation of yours. And so you have Freak take Spawn over to his home in the sewers. Now, once they do arrive to the home of the Freak in the sewers, you have Spawn realize that the Freak was able to gather a lot of different things from different parts of New York City to have a nice living area in the sewers. Matter of fact, you have Spawn say it's kind of like a small mansion down here in the sewers that belongs to the Freak. Either way, you have the Freak say the best way to attack Dr. Delirium is to do a surprise attack. And matter of fact, there is an underground tunnel that leads to a secret passageway that leads into Dr. Delirium's building. And so you have the Freak tell Spawn it's probably best for us to do a surprise attack and use that secret passageway as a way to do our surprise attack. And you have Spawn down with that game plan, except when our two characters leave, you have the Freak say, I cannot wait to get my revenge on Dr. Delirium for killing off my parents. Now, for Spawn, he's kind of like, wait a second, you said he killed off your wife and child. You didn't say anything about killing off your parents. And you have Freak say, after he killed off my wife and child, he then killed off my parents as well. He continued to kill off all my loved ones. And that right there should be another sign to say something is a tad bit off when it comes to the Freak. And so you have Spawn and Freak being able to pull off their surprise attack by going after the different guards that work for Dr. Delirium. But their goal right now is to get to Dr. Delirium. Now, while our two characters are trying to do that, you can tell right off the bat that something is off here. And what I mean by that is, as our two heroes go through this entire building to get to Dr. Delirium, we kind of find out he's not an evil scientist. That matter of fact, this building is actually a psych ward to help out people who are not mentally okay. And that includes the Freak, which means that the Freak broke out recently. And of course, because he's not there all the way mentally, everything he told Spawn is one fat, huge lie. And matter of fact, Delirium is not even a bad guy. Delirium's a good guy trying to help out his patients. But unfortunately, when it comes to the Freak, he's too far gone to be saved, it seemed. Because as soon as him and Spawn get inside the psych ward, they go straight for Dr. Delirium, for the Freak to kill him off. And matter of fact, the Spawn, he's kind of like, yeah, this all seems normal to me. Let me go ahead and help you bring down your evil bad guy. But in reality, though, Spawn is being tricked because the Freak is not a good guy. Matter of fact, the Freak is not there all the way mentally. And matter of fact, the Freak just killed off an innocent man. Delirium was not a bad guy. He was a good guy trying to help out his patients. But unfortunately, when it comes to Dr. Delirium, he is now dead thanks to the Freak. But you do have our two characters get away before the police are able to grab them and arrest them. But the last page of this book does give us confirmation that the Freak was actually a crazy person that escaped from the psych ward. And matter of fact, Delirium was not a bad guy who killed off his wife, kid, or his parents. Because we do pick up with a detective who's calling out to his wife. Not calling out, but meeting up with his wife. So his wife never did die. Matter of fact, they got divorced because she left him 8 years ago because he wanted children and she did not want any kids at all. And so, of course, it led to their divorce. With that being said, right now you have a detective going to the wife and say, hey, I have to inform you, your ex-husband had escaped once again. And matter of fact, we have no idea where he is at the moment. Can you help us find him? And she says no, because she was done with him 8 years ago. And she does not want to see him ever again. But this is our confirmation right here that the Freak is a crazy person that just had tricked Spawn to attack a psych ward and kill off the doctor of that psych ward. And so really, this one shot right here is just wild and crazy, but we have to move on. And so we jump into Spawn number 38. And when we do, we pick up with a guy known as Chris. Now, we are left to wonder, what is Chris' actual job? Because he could be an undercover agent, or Chris could be some kind of assassin that was hired for this particular job. Either way, you have Chris going to a mansion. And when it comes to this mansion, it is owned by a doctor. And apparently, Chris has to kill off this doctor who owns the mansion. With that being said, as soon as Chris arrives at the mansion, he does take care of the guard that was assigned to keep away visitors. But once the guard is removed from the equation, you have Chris go inside the actual building. But once he does go inside the building, well, Chris realized this building is filthy, that nobody has been properly taking care of the actual building. But either way, Chris says, I'm here for a job. I'm here to kill the doctor. The problem is, though, he cannot find the doctor anywhere at all. And the doctor that he has to kill is Dr. Wilheim, Frederick Wilheim. The problem is, Wilheim is nowhere to be found, but Chris is able to find a VHS. And of course, you have Chris play it and wondering, can he learn anything from this VHS, which he actually will. But we have to jump over to Spawn, and when we do, is Spawn getting ready to go to war against Jason Wynn? Because remember, in our last video, Spawn found out that Jason Wynn was the one who told Chapel to kill him off 5 years ago, and because of the death of Al Simmons, he was turned into a Hellspawn. And so this is Spawn saying, I am finally going to get my revenge against Jason Wynn. And when I do, I'm going to make sure the dude actually pays for it. And so you have Spawn collecting a whole bunch of different guns he used in the past as a way to make sure that he is ready to go to war against Jason Wynn and also the other people who are with Jason Wynn, like Terry. Because right now, to Spawn, Terry is still a bad guy. Because remember, at the end of our last video, Terry actually did protect Spawn. And so because of that, Spawn believes that Terry is now a bad guy that is working along with Jason Wynn. And so his goal is to kill off Terry, but to also kill off Jason Wynn. Except you did have Spawn be confronted by Cogliastro. Now remember, we have no idea anything about Cogliastro. The only thing we do know that he knows about everything about God, hell, heaven, all that stuff. He knows everything. But unfortunately, we have no idea who he is. But he does tell Spawn, you are going after the wrong person. What if I tell you that Jason Wynn is technically not the main bad guy that you should be going after? But we have to jump back over to Chris. And when we do, is Chris still watching the VHS that was left behind by Dr. Wilheim? Now, this is Dr. Wilheim going to explain what happened to him, but also this building. But he does start from the very beginning by saying that when he was a young boy, he was raised in a poverty area. And so once he was able to become a doctor, he felt like he should be a doctor in areas that are technically poverty areas. And he was a great doctor. But being a doctor, he was able to meet a nurse, and that nurse was Anna. And matter of fact, he fell in love with Anna to the point that 1 year later, they got married. Except right after they got married, she got sick, really sick, to the point where he was unable to figure out what was wrong with her. But after a few more weeks had passed by, you did have the government come to him and say, hey, we need your help. We want you to work on cybernetics. And when it came to Dr. Wilheim, he had to say yes. And the reason why? Because they were going to pay him very, very well. And he was going to use the money and their equipment as a way to figure out how to save the life of his wife. Unfortunately, because he had to do more work to be with her, she got sicker and sicker to the point where she fell into a coma. But as more weeks passed by and she got sicker and sicker, well, she died. And so after the death of his wife, he was confronted by the American military. Now, when it came to the American military, they gave Dr. Wilheim a new experiment to work on, which was called Cy-Gor. And when it came to Cy-Gor, what the military wanted was a cybernetic gorilla, a cyborg gorilla that had the brains of a human. Now, they want to make sure the brain of the gorilla was at least 80% of the human brain and the rest of your brain of a gorilla. Either way, for Dr. Wilheim, this was great. And the reason why? Because it gave him a brand new idea. Transplant. Why not take the brain of my dead wife and put that brain in a brand new body so that she'll be able to come back to life and I can be with her once again. Now, he realized that he had to be very careful with this new experiment, this new idea. And so what he did was he used the Cy-Gor experiment as a way to test out his ability of transplanting. Because once he's able to pull that off, he was then going to take the brain of his dead wife and put that brain into another dead person's body to bring her back to life. And of course, be with her once again. The problem was, though, he was able to finish the first project, Cy-Gor. But because he worked so hard, he was unable to properly take care of his body. And so his health began to fail to the point where he never reached his goal, which was bringing back his dead wife by taking her brain and putting her brain into another person's dead body. But he was able to finish the Cy-Gor project. The problem is, though, Cy-Gor did not come out correctly. Because remember, it's supposed to have 80% human brain and the rest of a gorilla. Except it seemed like it was flipped. And so now this Cy-Gor project has 80% of a gorilla and 20% of a human brain. And that is going to be a huge problem. And the reason why, because once you had Dr. Wilheim health begin to decline, he was unable to move a lot to the point where he was unable to move at all. And so he hasn't fed the beast in 4 days. Well, he says that in the VHS. By the time Chris gets here, it's been weeks. And so, of course, Cy-Gor is very hungry. And Cy-Gor wants to break out. But we jump back over to Spawn and Cogliastro. And when we do, it's Cogliastro trying to tell Spawn that he's wrong about Jason Wynn. That technically Jason Wynn should not be his main target. Matter of fact, his main target should be somebody else that had ordered Jason Wynn to kill off Spawn 5 years ago. Because you have Cog telling Spawn there is a hidden group in the actual government of America. And this group was trying to pull off one heck of an operation. The problem was, though, you were going to ruin their plans. And that was a huge problem. Now, at first, when you did begin to work for the government, it wasn't a problem. But after a while, you had the ability to ruin everything they were trying to do. But on top of that, though, they realized they could not get rid of you just yet. And the reason why, because when they realized you had to be killed off, you had just saved the life of the president and you were a nation hero. And so because of that, they realized if they did kill you off, there's going to be a lot of questions. And so they had to wait for the right time to basically kill you off. But really, Jason Wynn is innocent. It's this hidden group behind the scenes in the American government who are the reason why you died 5 years ago. And so if you want to get revenge, you have to get revenge against those guys who basically got you killed. And you have Cog just walk away. And so we do see Spawn go meet up with Granny. Now remember, Granny is the grandmother to Wanda, Spawn's ex-wife. But here's the thing though, because when it comes to Granny, her and Al had a very close bond with one another before he died 5 years ago. But on top of that though, after he came back as Spawn, he would always come back and see her here and there for advice, but to also make sure that she was okay, but also use her as a way to make sure that Wanda was also okay. And so right now, it's Spawn coming here and saying, hey, I'm coming here to make sure that you are okay, but also if Wanda is okay. Now, when it comes to Granny, she's blind, and so she has no idea how Spawn looks like. But she does tell Spawn, yeah, I'm okay, but Wanda and Terry, yeah, right now, they're not okay at all. Matter of fact, they told me that some kind of demon attacked them, and I can tell that they are scared. Really scared of this demon. Hey, Al, can you make sure that you take care of that demon? Because I know that God brought you back to life to do his work. And I know God would want you to deal with that demon. But she has no idea that the demon that Wanda and Terry are talking about is Al Simmons himself. She has no idea because she is blind. But you have Al promise her that he'll take care of that demon. And honestly, he's saying, I'll take care of myself and make sure I don't scare Wanda and Terry anymore. And the story ends on that note right there. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.